The language of tourism attempts to persuade, lure, woo, and seduce millions of human beings to push them out of the armchair and onto the plane.
Wow. That quote from Graham Dan absolutely nails what we're looking at today.
When you read tourism language, it's not just some friendly description of a beach or a local museum. Not at all. It's actually a highly manipulative, deeply persuasive tool. And its one single goal: to get you to pack your bags right now.
Welcome to This Explainer. I'm so thrilled to have you here because today we're going to tear down a massive misconception. We've all done it, right? We look at a travel brochure and think, oh, it's so simple. It's just describing a hotel. But translating for tourism, it's actually a deeply complex, incredibly nuanced cultural process. So let's dive right in and see why mastering this kind of translation is quite literally an art form. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the illusion of simplicity, move into the art of persuasion, and then navigate cultural contexts. After that, we'll check out some real-world English to Arabic examples and wrap things up with terminology and consistency. Let's get to it.
Starting off with Section 1, the illusion of simplicity, and peeling back the layers of translated texts.
Interestingly enough, tourism texts get heavily criticized by translation scholars, like Leo Hickey, for example, for lacking professional attention. You see, translators often stumble because they aim for mere semantic equivalence, basically a micro-level, word-for-word translation. But what they really should be shooting for is perlocutionary equivalence. That's the macro-level cultural impact. It's about asking, does this translated text create the exact same reaction in the target audience as the original did? Think about it. If the original text made you hungry, does the translation make your mouth water, or does it just give you a boring list of ingredients?
Moving on to Section 2, the art of persuasion and rousing the desire to travel.
Ultimately, the goal of these texts isn't just dictionary accuracy, right? It's about conversion, turning a reader into an actual tourist. To pull that off, a translator has to completely, and I mean completely, understand the specific cultural values that shape a traveler's unique expectations. You literally have to address what researchers call their culturally predicated needs. So you're moving way beyond simple vocabulary here. You're trying to identify what makes a specific culture tick. What do they find relaxing? What gets them excited? You have to rouse that exact specific desire in the reader's mind.
Which brings us to Section 3. Navigating cultural contexts and bridging the gap between worlds.
So how do translators actually bridge that gap? Well, this is where we run into culture-bound items. Honestly, this is the single biggest challenge in tourism translation. Scholar Bruno Osmo gives us 3 variables to juggle here. First up is text typology. Basically, is this fiction or a non-fiction brochure? Second, what's the role of the item? Are you trying to elicit estrangement, making the destination feel wonderfully exotic to the reader? Or are you trying to preserve its deep cultural roots? And third, what is the receiving culture's tolerance for foreign terms? This framework really walks us through the exact psychological choices a translator makes with every single culturally unique word.
And please don't forget, it is not just words. Visual signs carry some incredibly heavy cultural baggage. Just think about a simple thumbs-up gesture. In the US, it's welcoming, right? But in parts of the Middle East, it can be highly offensive. So translators and marketers absolutely must adapt to the visual components of a brochure or website just as rigorously as the text. It's the only way to ensure they actually fit the local customs and values of the target audience.
All right, Section 4, English to Arabic examples, where we put theory right into practice. Let's look at the really fascinating nuances of English to Arabic translation. Imagine you're translating a hotel menu that says spicy chicken curry. Now, a literal translation technically works, but it's kind of flat. However, a culturally adapted translation adds a subtle little phrase, seasoned with local spices. By adding that simple reference to local spices, the translator instantly connects the dish to familiar, comforting Arabic flavors and cooking methods. It drastically enhances the appeal, without losing any of the original meaning. Pretty clever, right? Then you have the tricky challenge of place names. You want to keep the original form for global brand recognition, of course, but you also need to provide some descriptive context. The Great Pyramid of Giza is a perfect example of this. Translating it as Haram al-Giza al-Azim strikes that perfect balance. It gives the Arabic speaker immediate descriptive context while still maintaining the globally recognized identity of the monument itself. It's the best of both worlds. And this brilliantly illustrates the real depth of cultural adaptation. This Arabic text discusses Socotra Island, which is famous for its frankincense and its ties to ancient Greek and Roman myths, where it was actually known as the Island of Happiness.
When you're translating a rich historical text like this, you really can't just swap words out. That deeply embedded cultural history requires super thoughtful adaptation. You have to capture the mythology and the reverence for these sacred commodities if you want to build a genuine, lasting connection with the reader.
And that leads into Section 5, Terminology and Consistency, the backbone of successful communication.
Now, while tourism language might seem casual and conversational, it's actually a highly specialized discourse that requires strict consistency. The real-world stakes here are high. It's not just about sounding nice on paper. First off, clarity prevents travelers from misunderstanding what services they've actually paid for. Second, native language accuracy builds profound trust. Third, and this is a massive one, using the exact right terminology prevents severe legal and safety liabilities for travel agencies. And finally, creating strict glossaries ensures your brand is completely consistent across all websites, brochures, and signage.
Standardizing this common terminology works beautifully in practice. For instance, locking in the translation for hotel or tourist attractions across every single piece of material establishes a really comforting familiarity for the traveler. No matter what brochure they pick up or what web page they click on, the language is cohesive. It massively enhances the overall visitor experience and, honestly, prevents a lot of unnecessary travel anxiety.
Which brings us to our final thought for today. Are your translations just changing words, or are they actually bridging cultures? Whether you're a translator, a marketer, or just someone who loves to travel, remembering the profound cultural impact of the words we use, it changes everything. We aren't just swapping out vocabulary, we are creating pathways between entire worlds. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. Keep learning, keep exploring, and I'll catch you next time.